In this episode, we're going to look at another mocking framework for Go called Mock by Mat Ryer. Hi, I'm Mark Bradley and welcome to Testing All the Things, a screencast in which we use live coding to demonstrate different types of testing tools and techniques. In this video, we're going to refactor the tests for our driving license number generator, switching out the hand-coded test doubles with mocks created by the Mock framework. Let's look at the code. In previous videos, we used hand-coded test doubles to create the implementation of this driving license number generator. Let's have a quick look over the code at the implementation before we start refactoring our tests. Our driving license number generator has a single function called generate and takes an applicant. An applicant is an interface with the following methods assigned to it. So is over 17, holds license, get initials, and get date of birth. First, the generate function checks if the applicant holds a license already. If they do, we log an error and return an error. Then we check to see if the applicant is over the age of 17. If they're not over 17, we log and we return an error again. If all these tests pass, then we move on to starting to generate our applicant's license. The first part of the license uses their initials and their date of birth, and then there is a random number assigned to the end of their license here. And finally, that new license number is returned. So we have three interfaces to mock here. We're going to look at our applicant, as we've gone over already. We've got the logger interface, which in our previous implementation we created a spy, so we could look what happened to the logger after the code under test had run. And then we had the random number generator, which we used a mock and a fake for. But in today's videos, we're going to replace all of those with mocks generated by the mock test framework. That's mock, M-O-Q, not M-O-C-K. So first things first, we need to generate a mock. We can do this on the command line. I have a command prepared already. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a mock of an underage applicant for our first test here. That will need to return that they do not hold a license and they are under 17. So let's generate our mock first of all. Using the mock command, using the rm flag, which means to remove any existing mocks at the location mock applicant. We're saying we want it in the package mock and we want the output to be put in the mock directory under the file mock applicant. And where we will find the package we'll find our mock our interface to mock in is dot, and the interface we wish to mock is the applicant interface. So let's run that, and then we can open our mock. So mock applicant, there we go. And we can see that this code has been generated and we're not to edit it. So it's quite large, we won't go through it, but there it is generated. And now we can start replacing our applicants. So in our first test, we want to remove the underage applicant. So we can take that out. Now a equals a pointer to mock dot mock applicant. Mock provides you access to functions that you can provide that will implement the interface of each of the functions of the interface. So we need a holds license function to be implemented to say that they don't already hold a license. We can do that. Return false. So that is the holds license function mocked. What we'll do is we'll put this onto separate lines, keep it a bit tidier. Like so, nice and neat. And we obviously need the is over 17 function to be mocked as well. Is over 17 function, func bool, return true, false, sorry. So our mock is all set up and replaced. And our tests all pass. Let's go through the rest of our tests and slowly replace our stub applicants with mocks. In this test, we need to create a applicant who already holds a license. So we'll replace a with a pointer to mock applicant. We want to mock the holds license function, and we want to say return true in this case. And let's test that again. We replaced that applicant fine as well. So let's move on to the next one. So now we have the valid applicant that we need to replace. So we can go pointer to mock applicant. So we need to mock the holds license function to say return false. Don't hold a license. Is over 17. Needs to return true. So we need get initials function to return initials we're using. And get date of birth function to return the date of birth we're using. So that's our replacement for the valid applicant mock we created. Let's run the test again. And we successfully replaced this applicant here. So that test is working. So now we can go to the next test. We'll just do a copy and paste to speed things up. So the difference here is there's no D in the initial. Save that, run our tests. and those tests are still passing. We've got, and that's all of our tests now using mocks generated by the mock framework. So we can now go and tidy up the bottom of our tests because we don't need the underage applicant stub. So that can go. And we don't need the license holder stub, so this can go. And the valid applicant can also go. There we go. That's removing quite a lot of code we don't now need to maintain from our tests. That's nice and neat. So if we scroll back up to the top, we can now start replacing our other test doubles. So let's, on this one, look at replacing our spy logger. So we're going to go back to the command line at this point, and we'll take our mock command. So we now need to create a mock of our logger interface so we can start replacing our spy with something generated by the mock framework. So we need to run this command again for a different interface. But remembering how we run this command every time we want to regenerate the mocks is a little bit tedious, a little bit annoying. So what we could do is we could look at moving these into a make file and keeping a list of the mocks to regenerate in our make file. Another part of Go which is really useful is the go generate command. The go generate command goes through your source code and runs CLI commands that you have put into your code. This is a really good use of the generate command, is to do things like generate mocks. So we're going to do that. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take our applicant setup, and we'll stick it at the top here. And then we want to do go generate. So what Go will do when we run go generate is it will run this command. So we can put it right above our interface so it keeps it close to our interface, which I like. Okay, so let's test this out. So if we look at the project, look at our mock folder, we can delete the applicant mock. And then if we run go generate, that's our code, we can see that our mock applicant has been regenerated. So that's a much nicer way to generate mocks. So now we can go and take the go generate command and set it up for our logger interface. Mock logger, it's the logger interface. Now we use a command line to run the generation for the applicant mock just now, but we can also use the IDE and let Golang generate the mock for us. So let's just run it like so. Okay, so our mock logger exists. Open it and see. Here we go. So down. Mock logger has been generated for us, and the IDE just ran the generate command on our behalf. Made it nice and easy. So now let's go through our tests and look at replacing the logger interface. So we've got the spy logger here, and in these tests we're actually checking what happens to the mocks. So let's start with the easier tests where there's no logging occurring. Okay, so we can replace our spy logger here with a pointer to mock.loggermock. Loggermock, yeah. And because we're not calling the logging function at all, we don't need to actually do anything for this one. So we can just do that. Same with this one. Oh, we should have, hang on, that's bad of me. Let's run our tests and check we didn't break anything first. Nope, there we are. So our interface is met by the mock logger, as we expect. So we'll take this one up now and replace this one. Yeah. And now we'll run the test again. Okay, and it's still passing. And now we need to replace our spy logger for cases where we are interested in what happens. We go up to our first test. As you can see here, we're getting the error and we're checking the error is okay. And we are also checking the log lines here. So we're checking that the call count to logger was 1, and we're checking that the last message contains underage. So we can replace our spy logger with @mock logger. At this point, we need to have a function. So put onto one line. So what we're going to do now is we'll take out the first part of the test, the second part of this test on the logging. We will not check the content. We're just going to look at the call count. So what does mock give us in this? So if we look at, so we have the log stuff function, which was set. We have the call to log stuff, which is the mocked call. And we have log stuff to call. So what we can do is we can look. So this returns an array, a struct. So what we can do is if we pull this out, we can say calls equals this. So we can change equals to length. So now the length of calls should be 1, saying we've called the function log stuff once because we've registered 1 call. Typo there. Okay, let's run that and see if that works. Okay, so that works for us. Now, can we use calls dot well, the first one b. So now we should be able to get the value given to the log stuff call, and that should then give us the string that we log, so we can check that it contains underage. Run that and see if that works. It does. So now we've also managed to replace our spy implementation where we are actually using the spy. So we can do the same for the test below where we're checking that the duplicate gets logged. So we can take this, so it's a pointer to a mock logger, and we want the function like so, and then calls equals l dot log stuff calls. And then we want the length of calls to be 1. and we want that first position call value. So calls position 0 value to be duplicate. Okay. Run our test again. And we successfully replaced our logger. So we can now go and remove our implementation of spy logger from our code. Okay. So we're down to one final interface to implement. So let's go and add our generator line. And this is our random number generator, which we use to generate the last digits of our driving license number. So we don't need to add it to the first two tests, or we do because we need to pass an interface in, but we can just leave it blank. So let's run the generate. That looks fine. So this is now replaced with mock. Okay. Oh, hang on, I made a mistake. So there we go. Run generate across the whole piece. There we go. Just check. Why is it not working? Just run it this way. Yep. Not. Looks okay. There we go. Okay. So that worked. Not quite sure what I did wrong there. Okay. So we've replaced the mock generator there. We can also do the same here. This one doesn't use it, and now we're down to one that uses it. So now we need to mock the function. So it's get generator func, takes an integer and returns a string. So we want ours to return all of these zeros here. So we just do return 0, like so. And let's run the tests and see if they pass. Tests are passing, great. So we can just move on to the final replacement here. So we are, and that returns that many zeros. Okay, we'll run a test again. All nicely replaced. Okay. So we've done a lot of copying and pasting during our refactor to create a lot of new mocks. So now's an opportunity to actually clean up what we've already been doing today. Each test we create a mock applicant, we create a logger mock, and we create a random number generator mock. So could we look at moving this generation up into a before each? So we have a clean mock each time, and we don't have to, we can reduce the number of lines of code we have. So let's do that. Testify setup. Like so. So now what we could do is if we find our suite, let's take bit, bring up to the top, both these bits. In fact, they're easy to reference. Okay, so on the suite, we can do A is pointer to a mock applicant. And in the setup, we can do s.a equals pointer to mock applicant, like so. And then this becomes a lot smaller because this becomes s.a dot equals like so. Okay. And same here. Commas at the end. Save. Bracket. Let's realign everything nicely. And then instead of a, passing s.a. Save. Let's run that. Still passing. Okay, that looks much neater. We can go and do this for all of our tests. So this is replaced. Okay. So it's s.a dot equals, move the commas. So we can remove that line, realign. Okay, so looking neater, and we can do the same. We can just do a quick copy paste here to replace this. Remove the D, pass in s.a. Run the test, but let's run the test now to make sure they're all passing still. Okay, so that's a small improvement we've made already. We've moved a couple of lines of code. It's still quite clear what's going on. What we could do maybe is a little refactor now. You can call, instead of it's A, let's make it a little bit clearer what it is so we don't remember it around. So we'll call it applicant mock, like so. Do the refactor. Back to the terminal. Check everything's still passing. Brilliant. There we go. So now we have kind of cleaned up this code really nicely around the applicant mock. So we can do the same thing with the mock logger. So we can go so s.logger mock equals mock. Okay, let's have a look at this. So this has a blank function, it does nothing. So does this one. This one doesn't have anything in it. So we could actually move everything up at this point and just have the entire logger mock set up just in our before each function. So let's take this as well. Okay, in fact, let's just single line this completely. Really nice and small, single line, and then we can just remove a few more lines of code. This is s.loggermock. So this is now s.loggermock. Okay, so that's tidied up. Let's just run that to make sure that works before we go and replace all the others. Yep, that's still passing. So we can now, where are we? Yep, this is one test. Second test. Here, we can take this line out. Okay. Run again. Cool, still passing. So let's look at this one, so we can get rid of this line. And just quickly do the same on this one. Okay, run our tests. Our tests are all passing. So we've now completely removed the instantiation of our mock logger up to the before function, reduced the number of lines of code that we need to think about in each of our tests to kind of the minimum. Okay. So now we're on to our final interface, the random number generator. So random gen mock. So to mock random number generator mock. Okay. Random, let's spell it correctly. So and then we can pass in s dot. So doesn't like that colon. Okay, so our test has got a little bit smaller again. Still passing, so we can make the fix to our next test. Okay. And now we're on to the tests where we are actually interacting with this mock. And so if we look at them, currently replacing with hard-coded string of 5 zeros, and in the second one 6 zeros. So we can look at moving this up, or we can look at just doing what we've done with the others, where we've got s dot and then the variable and then create the function here. But we could take the implementation from our fake random number generator and put that into our mock, making our mock a little bit smarter, and meaning we don't have to do as much. We can kind of take that and make that a fake rather than just a mock. If we bring this up and we say the function is get random func, create the function length. We can just put this in here like so. Let's stick this on a new line that, make it a bit more readable. Save. So there, if we do that, then we don't have to sit and define what is returned each time, we've made use of the function and made it into kind of a fake rather than a mock, where we just define what's returned. Actually, there is a small amount of implementation, there's a small amount of cleverness or logic to our get random numbers func. So this allows us now to actually completely remove this from these tests. Now we can just pass in r dot numbered mock. We can replace this one with s dot generate mock. Save. And we'll run our tests, make sure everything. Run our tests, make sure everything's passing. It's still passing. That's really nice. That's really neat. So now there's one more line of code that's now duplicated pretty much across all of our tests, and that is this instantiation of the struct that contains our code under test. Now there's also an opportunity at this point to move this up as well to our before function. So let's look at what that looks like. So we'll take it from this bottom test. I'll take it from the top test, actually, it'll be a bit easier, so move up to the top. We've got our mocks, and now we can do our license generator. Is a number generator, like so. Okay, and now in our, if we take this line here, instead of LG, we do s dot license generator, and then we do s dot license generator here. So because our mocks are pointers, we're in a position where we can pass them in and then manipulate them in the test before the code under test is run. So it makes our code under test incredibly small. Let's just get rid of this. That's probably a bit late. Anyway, there we go. So now our test here is nice and small, so we'll just do this for the rest of them. This line goes away, and this is now s dot license generator. Same here. And now we can remove our fake random generator as well. It's one final run of our tests, and everything's passing. So let's have a quick scan over our tests. So we've got our setup, which just instantiates all of our mocks and creates our fake random number generator, instantiates the struct that contains the code under the test, and then we move into our tests. Our tests are now extremely small compared to what they used to be. We have very small amount of setup, showing you very clearly what changes in the mocks for each of the scenarios. So this is kind of our arranging, setting up the test to say that our applicant doesn't hold a license and is over 17. Is under 17. We run the code under test, and for this scenario, we expect an error to be returned. We expect that error to return to contain the word underage, and we expect a log to have occurred and one log line to be there, and that log line also to contain underage. Very similar setup for our applicant making a duplicate application. So they do already hold a license, so they error with a duplicate and they log with duplicate as well. And then finally we're into the kind of the valid users and generating license numbers. So we can see that we use the the initials, we use the date of birth, and then we've got these random numbers on the end to make it to a specific length. And then to check that the length is correct, we remove one of the initials and we get an extra digit on the end of our license to make it long enough. I think it was 16 characters. So that was a quick look at how we can replace different types of test double with Mat Ryer's mocking framework. I hope you found this really useful. I highly recommend you go away and have a play with the mocking framework. It's one I really like and I've used on a few projects myself. But that's everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you go away and play with mock, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching this episode of Testing All the Things. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please rate and review the video and subscribe to the channel. If you did not and you have any feedback, please leave a comment in the comment section of the video or contact me on Twitter @Bradle.